Today on That Bitchin' Real Estate Show, we have Daniel Folk, whom, in my stalking, I couldn't find much on, and we're about to find out.
Good, then my plan's been working.
Yes, it has.
Get ready for the real estate show that takes you across the barriers and into the danger zone. That Bitchin' Real Estate Podcast with your host, Tenacious T.
All right. Thank you for joining us again on this amazing, rad bitchin' show. Daniel, please introduce yourself and tell us who you are.
So, my name is Daniel Folk. I am the founder and CEO of 100 Life Design. We are the premier online life and career coaching platform.
So intriguing. Like, Todd, doesn't that just immediately perk your ears right up?
I'm super excited to learn about it.
Exactly. And Jeff, I already know. You're like,
Tell me more.
100 Life Design. In my bit of research, I was able to assess that you have taken professionals that have been through extreme situations or have been inspired to help others by telling their stories. And you know, I'm big on stories, guys. Please elaborate on what 100 Life Design is.
Sure. So, as I'd mentioned, this is a coaching platform, and I think there's a lot of mystery and misconception around what coaching really is. I won't go too much into that today, but yes, you are correct that I have found unique individuals from various different diverse backgrounds who have either overcome adversity in some extreme way or have accomplished a great deal of success in the face of adversity or trials or anything like this. And the real premise of everything that we do with our coaches is about walking the talk.
Yeah.
And Kimberly, you were actually on my podcast show called Walk the Talk not too long ago.
Yes.
Because you are certainly a person who I think very nicely falls into this category. And I'm sure your listeners are somewhat familiar with your background, so I won't go into that. But what I mean by walk the talk is somebody who has actually gone through the motions, not just, mentally checked out, but has been engaged, gone through the motions, and has accomplished a great deal of success in whatever it is they do. And so they're now at a point where they've reached that certain level and they are able to give back to other people, not only through their actual skills and leveraging their experiences, but they also have that personality and that desire to actually want to help and to engage. And you're right, storytelling is certainly a big part of it, whether that's in the actual coaching relationship between mentor and mentee, or it is one of the very diverse and interesting guests that we have on our podcast show.
Yeah. You got to meet one of my coaches out there in the green room, Brian Colhane. And he's also a big proponent on being accessible to us as agents, to friends. It's almost a natural progression in someone that they start already advising friends and family and different professionals in the business. Your platform makes sense for a lot of those who don't want to end up, just doing that individually, who maybe want to add that on to their portfolio.
Right. So this is very much a supplement to everything else that all of our coaches have going on in life. Kind of think of it as like the Uber model for coaching, if you will. No one, or some people do, but most people don't drive full time. They've got something else going on. So maybe it's a very successful real estate agent or property developer, and he's or she is realizing, man, all these people keep coming to me and picking my brain for this or that. I should really be getting paid for it. Or maybe I just genuinely enjoy doing this. How can I make it a little more official? So we create that secure from a confidentiality standpoint space, as well as providing full transparency on who this person is, why they're good, what they're worth, what you're going to actually get out of it, and then connect with them in real time through video chat.
It's almost like you're matching up or the consumer is matching themselves up with the coach that fits their particular stress or what they need in that part of their life.
Yes, we will do the matching for a client if they like, but I really wanted to make this just like shopping for anything else. And I don't mean to dehumanize that experience, but that's just what consumers are used to. They're shopping for a particular service, and they want those answers right in front of them from, again, when, why, how much, where, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to give extreme transparency to something that really, up until now, doesn't have a lot of that.
It doesn't. And one of my favorite people that I love to watch is John Cheplick, but I could never afford John Cheplick. I shouldn't say that. I'm going to have him on my show next year. We'll put it that way. Todd, you are an amazing influencer, Women of Strength events. You have a golden heart. You wrote, again, Win by Noon. How does this type of platform intrigue you, especially for maybe some of the people that work for you and for realtors out there?
Well, if we weren't filming, I was going to grab my phone and start looking at it. No, I think it sounds really awesome because I think that is a challenge that most people want. They know they need the help, they want the help, and they feel like either they can't afford it or they don't feel like they understand where to go find it. So it sounds to me like you've built a platform where people can actually jump on there, do the research, and then get connected with someone that has the same mission, vision they have and a price range they can afford.
Yeah.
That about sums it up, yeah.
And so Jeffrey is I'm going to say, managing a whole lot of the BVO group. Would this be something that you could see real estate agents using?
Absolutely. I know that I went through, when I was started out in the industry, I didn't know where to go, which direction. I would wake up in the morning and every day was a cluster where you confuse being busy with actually getting work done.
Yeah.
And I can be busy doing a lot of stuff with no direction, and then nothing ends up getting done. And so I needed that direction. I know that a lot of agents out there don't know where to go to get it or how to get it, or don't feel like they're successful enough to
get
need
it.
it. Right. And I really think it's a great tool. It's something that everybody should have some degree or another in their life to help them, whether you're new or in the business for 20 plus years. I know Andrew, as successful as he is, still relies on coaching, coaches others also, but we all need it. We can all benefit from some type of coaching.
Every single successful person that I have come across in my life have all had at least one coach. And this is a huge solution to the accessibility down to the simplest level.
Yeah, and actually, I'm glad you brought that up, and both of you guys, around the topic of success. I think one of the misconceptions, rather, in this field, and you'll probably agree with me, is that there seems to be this perception that coaching is reserved for those who are really successful because it either costs a lot of money or you have to be really good in order to then get a coach. And one of the biggest ironies that I've seen in the industry is a lot of attention gets put on really hugely successful people and their coaches and all this kind of stuff, while everyone else is kind of scrambling to find like the get fixed quick solution, and they're not turning to coaching for some whatever reason. And so in the real estate context, I've never been a realtor, but I have been a commission salesman before. I sold cars, and I think real estate's not too dissimilar in that respect, where if you don't sell...
but I'm just kidding.
He never told one of those stories.
only from a commission sales-based job. I'm not going to touch on any of the other aspects here. But the reality is, if you don't sell something for a given month, you're not getting paid, right? And there's a lot of uncertainty around... Am I going to make enough money to clear this month's payments that I've got, or how do I get started? There's nothing to fall back on, so it's really
unless you're with EXP and have revenue share. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying.
Good plug, Kim.
It seems to me like this would also be a very advantageous thing for younger people or individuals who are new to the game and looking to get their foot in the door.
Yes.
No pun intended.
Well, and the other, I've had a few other coaches as well. My absolute favorite quotes come from Joe Bozzello, and that's what he does now. And even he has said, you can only have a coach for so long as well. You learn everything that you need to learn from them, and you need to move on. And this is, again, a platform where you can move on to another coach when you've learned everything you can learn from that one and have it be affordable and fit your budget.
Absolutely. I would encourage anyone to do that, and even work with one or two coaches in parallel. There's not going to be like that one person who fixes your life completely or anything. I mean, you kind of have to pick and choose what sage advice you want to take and which you want to ignore. There's very much a relationship aspect to it. So the ability to kind of pick and choose and to be very fluid in your working with a coach is something that is a unique offering we have.
So I'm going to delve into your brain a little bit.
Sure.
On a personal level.
All right.
And gentlemen, I may defer a little bit to you on a few of these questions. So let's keep it in the coaching world. So when you're thinking of what you do now and what you're searching for in a coach, what word do you love? What do you like to come across that just like,
If I was looking for a coach and they were advertising to me, probably the word grit or anything related to it. Because I know for me personally, I can be somewhat impatient when it comes to, reaping the fruits of my labor or seeing results. And it's very easy to have an extremely skewed perception of time when you're hustling every single day.
Yeah.
Constantly I'm like following up with people thinking, where the hell is this asshole? Why didn't he get back to me?
Yeah.
And it's been like 12 hours.
Yeah.
Right. So,
I'm manic like that too.
grit in just kind of helping me stay grounded in the reality of time and expectations of the world, let's say, but also understanding that, as you guys all know, success does not happen overnight. It takes usually a good couple years and a lot of hardship and pitfalls before anything really starts to matriculate. So that for me is a huge one.
Love it. Grit is a good one. Todd, do you have one word when it comes to coaching?
For me personally, it was accountability. I needed someone who was actually going to hold me to what it was I committed to do, because it was super easy for me to slide, right?
Me too.
And so I think that, or transparency. I want someone to be authentic with me and let me know truly what they think, and isn't going to be afraid to slap me upside the head when I need it, because I needed it quite often over the years.
Don't we
and
all?
Now.
Jeffrey.
Trust.
Yes.
When you're working with a coach, especially when you're new to the coaching process, you're going to hear things that might seem crazy. You probably have certain patterns of behavior that were learned over time that are difficult to break, and you're really challenging yourself to step outside that comfort box. And when you hear something that you hadn't heard before, you have to trust the process, trust your coach that he has your best interest in mind, and he's not telling you something that's not going to get you to the finish line. So sometimes blind trust is what you have to have, and just execute and do it.
Yeah, love that. Okay, along the same lines, what word do you hate when it comes to coaching?
The first one that came to my mind is alignment. And not because I don't have any personal relation to this word. It's just, it falls into one of those buzzword categories. The hell does this really mean? Aligning with what? There's a lot of others in this field, and I guess I'm just very anti-buzzword, anti-trendy jargon. Coach to coach, we might use this and pretend we understand. I honestly don't.
I prefer the word balance over alignment.
That is a little more tangible for me.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, again, taking yourself into a personal space, let's say you just had a really, really hard day. You've got a full day tomorrow. You're waking up in the morning. What is that turn on? What is it you turn to get yourself all fired up for that day and be excited?
I have made it a recent goal of mine, and I'm trying to stick to it as best I can, to meet at least one new person every single day, at least Monday, Friday. Whether it's coffee, lunch, whatever. This is not an entirely new concept, certainly isn't, but it's something that I've really been becoming disciplined about doing, and that gets me fired up, because it opens doors in so many directions that I would never have imagined, and so it's always a little bit of a mystery, and more often than not, a pleasant surprise.
I love that. That's fascinating. So your goal is to meet a stranger every day.
Yeah, it is.
God, I love that. I'm going to have to steal that from you, I think. So along the same lines, what turns you off?
On a daily basis?
On a daily basis, or in my book, it's arrogance turns me off. I don't want to hear it. I don't want it in my life. There's no place for it.
Okay.
So for you, What would that be?
Like passing the buck or just kind of negative Nancy's in general.
Yeah, Debbie Downers.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't work with you. Yeah. I don't like it.
Todd, tell me.
I think it's excuses, right? People don't take responsibility. I mean, I fail. We all fail. But when I fail, I take responsibility for it and don't make it passing the buck.
Yeah.
In my personal life, until recently, it was commitment, and I could barely say it. But now it's complacency.
No, yeah.
Ugh.
That's a common one.
I hear complacent, and it's like nails on a chalkboard.
Yep.
I hate that. Ugh, complacency.
It all comes down to choice. You choose to be that way. And it's a choice to get out of it, too.
Easier said than done, but
Easier said than done, but it comes down to
it's
that simple. When you break it down and you bring it down, it comes to choice. This is one of my favorite questions, and we will bleep it out for the families and younger children that will listen to this podcast. What is your favorite curse word? Yes.
Just for
it's so popular.
It's diversity. It's a verb. It's an adjective. It's a noun. It covers every single aspect of the English language.
It does. And Todd, you and I are old enough to remember this, and you may not have seen it, but in the 80s, there was a one-page of and its many uses that it fits everywhere. So there is going to be a special episode where we can elaborate on that word. And that one, I can't bleep enough. So
yeah.
I love it. Okay. So again, very personal. What sound do you love?
Water drops, rain, like rain on a skylight or something like that.
I haven't heard that one yet. I've heard a lot of them, but you're absolutely correct. It breaks the silence, and you're listening to the rain, and it does bring a comfort, I think.
Yeah, and I grew up in Vancouver where it rains constantly, and there's something nostalgic about it for me.
Yeah.
I don't know what, so
it's
I don't
it's a
hear
childhood
a lot
thing. It's a comfort, childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like that Thanksgiving meal or whatever family tradition, and it brings it back for you. Mm-hmm. Todd, I'm curious, what sound do you love?
My favorite memory of a sound was sitting it was a rock beach in Nice, France with my middle daughter, Emmy. We went there for her graduation, and my wife was collecting sea glass as she walked up, and to hear the waves and on the rocks was such a different sound. So I have all sorts of clips I recorded of that, and it was just beautiful, just quiet time.
Yeah. And it's funny how water is so essential, and we connect to it as humans on a very basic grounding level. Jeff, what's your favorite?
Yeah, I would
sound?
agree. There's something soothing about water elements.
Mm-hmm.
I love waves crashing on the beach. I love to travel. Lived on the cruise ship. So waves is big for me. And then I also love the sound of keys jingling when you're exchanging them, giving them to a new homeowner.
Nice plug there, yes. Along the same lines, what sound do you hate?
Fingernails on the chalkboard. I mean, it's cliche, but that really makes my skin crawl. Or like, this isn't a sound, but it's that same sensation. I can hear it in my own head. I mean, I'm sure we all can, but like if you take a popsicle stick and you kind of like, when you get down to the end of the popsicle and you're just trying to get the rest of it off, and it kind of grinds on your teeth, that's the worst.
So a bit of a sensory issue for you.
Yeah, maybe.
So we didn't really get to the backstory of what you did before. We understand you have a passion for building something that helps and reaches out to people. Mm-hmm. That's the sense that I've gotten. You have a very generous nature. So if you were to, let's just take out everything that you're doing right now. There's no coaching, there's no commercial sales, whatever you have done in your life, take yourself back to when you were a teenager. What profession would you have done?
Race car driver.
I love that. Yes. Why?
It's my biggest obsession, my biggest passion. Prior to starting this company, I started a very small one with a friend of mine in Europe, and we imported cars from the States and sold them in Germany. It's I think where I discovered my passion for entrepreneurialism. When I was 14, I inherited a very small amount of money from my grandmother who passed away, and I bought a piece of crap car off of Craigslist, and I tore it apart and learned how they worked. always been obsessed with it. And
I love that. When I was a little girl, my father used to restore and rebuild 1932 Ford Roadsters with Ardent overhead cams. And we used to go to Mr. Barrett's house, Mr. Jackson's house, sorry. And that's grown since then. But I love my car. I love him. I sit in the car and we listen to music together. There is a bonding moment for me and my Mustang, and I can relate to wanting to be that driver because maybe a lot of people can't relate to that, but it is a part. You become a part of that car, and a race car driver really takes that passion.
Yeah, you guys. I'm sure you guys watched Knight Rider TV show, right? That was like.
Did we all?
Yeah.
Yes.
I watched that show.
Jeffrey's looking at us. Jeffrey didn't watch it. I could see the look on his face.
I did watch it.
That to me was the ultimate. I ended up buying that car and restoring it. I loved Kit so much, and as much as I talked to it, it never responded. But yeah,
my car talks to me. I don't know what you're doing wrong, but I'll come over and check it out. Why didn't you?
Didn't I become a race car driver? I guess part of it was maybe. You know what? Part of it was probably just me not giving it an honest shot. Mm-hmm. You hear stories how like kids, they start go-karting competitively when they're like 8 or something like this. Obviously there's like that financial accessibility part of it that my family didn't have at the time, but that doesn't mean I couldn't have just, I didn't have to buy the crappy car of Craigslist. I could have gotten involved. Like I could have done a bunch of other things, but it was a combination of not going for it on my own, maybe not believing that I could do it, combined with, pressures from parents to go to school. None of my friends were doing it. So,
You can still pursue it a little bit now.
And I try to as much as I can. Legally.
I love it. Love it. So this is something I'm going to give you a few minutes to think about. Think about your favorite celebrity. Could be a leader, someone dead or alive, doesn't matter there, an influencer that you could have dinner with. Who would it be and why?
Two come to mind. One of them is actually a local guy here, Robert Kiyosaki. Oh. And the other one is Tim Ferriss. And they are very unconventional thinkers in their space. They have disrupted and had a significant influence on disrupting the industries that they're part of. But my best friend also introduced me to both of their books at a very pivotal time in my life. And to summarize, having, familiarized myself with their works, it prompted me to quit my job to start the business I now have, and has really been paramount in changing my perception of the world and work and entrepreneurialism.
Yeah. So you're a bit of a philosopher then.
I don't know if it's that intellectual, but...
So why did you start building this platform?
Because it was... obviously I saw the opportunity, but it really struck me on a flight that I had taken home from Dubai. This is where the idea spawned. At the time, I was working as a organizational development consultant, so like a business psychologist, if you will, for Mercedes-Benz. And my job was to work with dysfunctional dealerships. And Mercedes would fly me around the world to work with different teams in markets where, Mercedes was being outsold by Audi or BMW. And my whole job was basically to be a coach to sales teams that weren't performing. I would go and meet them in person. We'd have an intervention, and we talk about getting those numbers up. Okay. Yeah. I went to Dubai, and it was like this first-class flight, amazing hotel, lavish meals, all of it, for really what only came down to about a couple hours of actual FaceTime with the team. Yeah. And I'm thinking like, God, this company is spending so much money and so much energy and so much time just to get me to talk for like a couple hours. Not to mention, this is time away from me at my company doing other productive things. There's all these environmental factors that aren't even really that big of a deal to me, but I started thinking about them in that light. And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. Why can't we be leveraging existing technology to deliver exactly the same experience?
Yes, man, yes.
So that was kind of the catalyst for it. And then I started looking into it more with coaching on individual levels. And I saw that there was a real lack of transparency and a serious lack of quality control when it comes to coaches. We've talked about this before. There's tons of people out there who are self-proclaimed professionals, and there really isn't any sort of, there's a couple governing bodies that will give you the education and some degree of licensure.
Yeah.
But you can't really determine as a consumer, is this coach going to deliver or not?
Yeah. Gentlemen, is he not fascinating? Give me a little feedback.
Well, I'm super
that.
interested to hear. So what was there a commonality in underperforming dealerships to the advice that you would give them to get their sales back on track?
A lot of it was not because the product portfolio was bad or they didn't understand the market. It was just, inter and intrapersonal problems among the team, and then, unresolved issues on an individual level. And that's really when I was like, I've got this important business title, but it all just kind of boils back to coaching at the end of the day.
Community and culture. Jeffrey, sorry.
That's okay. I'm wearing a tie today. Remember the rule?
Yes, Jeffrey. Yes.
I'm really impressed. There's a lot of commonality that shines through in hearing your story. You have a special ability to recognize opportunity, whether it was from the race car experience when you were younger, going to Europe, trading vehicles over there, the previous job that you had with Mercedes-Benz. At first blush, I think a lot of people would envy that position that you had, being flown all over the world, flying first class, eating fancy meals, fancy hotels, and they would be happy in that role. But you saw an opportunity out of that to create something of your own. And that's huge. Taking a risk on yourself and leaving what was probably guaranteed a lot of safety with that position and that role, to starting something where you saw a benefit, where you could reach, I think, more people and make a bigger difference. That's huge.
Well, thank you.
That's called true grit.
True grit.
If we were to use one of your favorite words.
Yeah, perhaps it was. I don't know. I'm very much motivated by the fear of regret, in that I had this idea. I really thought it could work. And yes, I could have this safe, secure, wonderful life and all that good stuff. But I knew I'd wake up one day, I'd be 50 years old, and I'd be thinking, damn, what if? And this idea isn't that revolutionary. I mean, someone else is going to come up with it. There's going to be competitors of mine.
Yeah.
It just seemed like I should do it, or I'm going to just hate myself forever.
Well, you sound like the perfect one to have started it. And when it comes to the word regret, we all will have them. But if you don't try, you'll never experience what regret is.
That's
I
true.
love what you've done.
Thank you.
We're going to do a quick sign off. So I want to be sure that you tell them any information on how to get a hold of you.
Sure.
This is Kimberly Toko, Tenacious T.
And I'm Daniel Folk. Do check out our website at 100, HUNDRED, 100thelifedesign.com. My contact info is available on there, and you can also follow us on Instagram. That's 100lifedesign.
Todd Bookspan, Win by Noon. Check out winbynoon.com if you're looking to grow in sales, or if you need a mortgage for one of Jeffrey's luxury, all levels of homes, bookspanbaker.com.
Jeffrey Serpa, Keller Williams, Arizona Realty BVO Luxury Group. Hashtag Serpa Certified on social media.
And it's not what you go through, it is how you come through it. Tenacious T.